Hi everyone, and welcome to the Hub and Spoken Special, a 6-part series where we have curated some of the awesome discussions we've had over the last 100 episodes. As data and analytics is really in its infancy, and so many people are trying to find their way still, we've always aimed to create a platform for us and our guests to open up and share real-life stories about delivering value from data. Have frank and honest discussion about what works and what doesn't, and represent what we at Cynozure and the CDO Hub see as vital topics for organizations to engage in. So this special series celebrates and showcases those discussions, the amazing guests we've had, and the brilliant content we've shared. Each of the 6 episodes in this series focuses on a specific topic: data strategy or data management, business value, data platforms, data leadership, and finally, leading with purpose. It was incredibly hard to decide what to include from previous episodes, as there's been so many amazing things said by so many people. We hope, though, that we've represented this topic well and that it resonates with you all. This is part 3 of the series, delivering incremental business value through the application of data and analytics. This episode looks back at some of the fantastic discussions we've had that highlight how working on data is all about delivering business value and what value can be achieved. We hear about the need to be business focused, avoid becoming an expensive cost center, and we provide lots of examples of how data has been used to powerful effect. First is a conversation I had with Rob Barham, the Director of Data at Gusto, the recipe box food business, about using data to build the business from the ground up and what they as a digital and data native business have done to enable this. In order to deliver value, it's important to understand the culture required to do so, and the story from Rob and Gusto is an inspiring one for all of us.
Often organizations, it's sort of a back-end function, but it doesn't feel like that the way you're explaining it. And certainly as a data native business, I'd be surprised if it feels that way. But how does the rest of the organization kind of interact and see you as a function? Is it a sort of a cost, or is it a real enabler for the business?
Yeah, it's a great question. So we think about this quite a lot, because I think as a data team, especially when you scale, you have a lot of people, it's quite expensive, and you do need to demonstrate the value that you're bringing. I think there's a couple of things that come to mind for me on it. One is, I think we are generally seen as a value creating function, and we try to capture as much as possible the value that we're bringing through our products. So if I give you an example, if we are looking to release a product in our factories, that may grow our capacity or our throughput. It may reduce our labor cost, and we'll try to tangibly demonstrate the uplift that we'll get from that. And there's normally a very, very good ROI on our products, partly because of the value they bring, but also because we have quite a good hit rate as a data team. So most of what we develop actually lands and is released in the organization. So that's one part of it. I think also we are, alongside a lot of other teams in the company, quite key to our success as an organization in the future, because we want to differentiate on choice. Gusto provides more recipe options than any other comparable player in this vertical in the UK. We want to scale that. And I think our ability to be able to personalize and recommend from that big universe of menus is hugely important. And our ability to have a data-driven supply chain to be able to manage all of that with good unit economics is hugely important for that, both of which rely upon data. So that's kind of part of it as well. I'd add also that we are quite cross-functional. So data at Gusto tends to be embedded in tribes and in squads. And so at some level, it's less data delivering things as a data team. It's more, we're part of the success of a squad, which is comprised of a collection of different profiles, all of whom are releasing some value through a product that they're building. So we're usually part of that in terms of how we're delivering things.
Yeah, there's some key essence is of being a data native company there, isn't there? You mentioned culturally, it's just embedded within the organization DNA. It's top down. It's understood that, it's mandated almost to use data for a decision. But there's 2 really important things I think you mentioned there. One is being seen and genuinely being a value creating function. I love that phrase because that just proves that you're needed. It's desirable. It's necessary, and there's good value that comes out of it. And that incremental value whether, as you say, it's providing value to another team or it's embedding within a business thing that you're doing is a real necessary thing.
To me, it really means that data's been part of your organization from very early in your journey as a company. I think a lot of organizations, they've maybe been going for quite a while, and then they discover opportunities to use data to add value to their customers and to their products.
Yeah.
I think the distinction with a company like Gusto is that's been part of our mission since really, really very early on. And so tangibly, that means we'll have products which have been iterated upon for many years and are really part of the fabric of our offering in terms of our product set. But I think it also embeds in the culture as a result as well. So you see aspects of that in how anyone from a relatively junior new team member through to an exec might either think of an idea to use data or maybe think of a suggestion of how to improve an existing data product. So I think it kind of cuts both across the product elements and also the cultural elements. And I think it comes back to how early in your journey did you start embedding data and how widely has it been embedded across the company?
Yeah, I think that's a big difference. I think as a new business starting out, you'd be mad not to start as a digital native business, but if you're not a digital company, certainly putting data at the heart of what you do and how you do it, and finding ways to embed it into, or even have it as your product, but certainly embed it into your organization. I love your founder Timo Bolt has his LinkedIn profile says that we're a data company that loves food, and I just love the kind of idea that, for an organization to really get data, as you say, it's a cultural thing. And if your founder and your head honcho, your head chef, maybe you call him, I don't know, is talking about being a data company, that's a great starting point to have that permeate through the business. I imagine, does it feel top down like that?
Yeah, I think it does. And I think that makes a huge difference when you have the leadership of a company not only valuing data for what it can do to bring insight or to surface data products to customers, but actually framing the company partly as a data company. I think that shift in your positioning as a business makes a huge difference if you're a data team, and it really reverberates through the whole culture. So to me, that's huge. I think if you're trying to either start a company with this mindset or maybe take an existing company and take it from where you are to being more data oriented, having that sort of top-down perspective on not only is data valuable, but we are at some level a data business is huge. I think it really transforms the opportunity you can bring.
Yeah, clearly from a marketing point of view, it's not necessarily something you'd tell the average punter, but I think certainly in business circles and internally within the organization, feeling that way and acting and behaving that way makes such a big difference, doesn't it? Language does really is really important and does really work.
Next up, we hear from my chat with the Chief Analytics Officer from Banorte Group, Jose Murillo, about how he was able to return 250 times the cost of his business unit through analytical solutions and insights. We talked about setting the analytics function, owning its own P&L from the start, and how he has measured the ongoing contribution to the business growth and focuses precious resources on the things that matter. Is that how you've gone about sort of thinking about the return? It's almost a cost plus scenario you've got there, where you know how much you're costing the organization, but you're obviously delivering way more than that, because otherwise there's no, what's the point, what's the value, what's the incremental gain? But is that the approach you've had to this, or is that just a way you've been able to better articulate your standing within the organization?
The way that we were built was to when they founded the group, they asked us to we were built as a profit center in some sense.
Okay,
we were so those targets were part of the deal for funding the group, and so it was initially, I guess. It was a part, and you said it correctly. A lot of people don't really measure what is their contribution to an organization, and not only in analytics or data science. And you think that people within our industry are experts at measuring lots of things, but very few people are measuring their own contribution. And I think that even if it was a blessing in disguise that we were asked to measure our own contribution, and that it was a prerequisite to get the funds necessary to start up. Because I think it's a, anywhere that you are in an organization, you should be what's, how much are you contributing and how much you're worth to an organization.
Yeah.
And it's and it has to do to I guess in two streams. For the organization point of view, it's if you really know where's the value, you can focus all your efforts in things that are valuable. And at the end of the day, everybody has scarce resources, and you have to be focusing on those scarce resources on things that are of value. And then on a more personal side, if you for the development of your own career or of your own team, if you are wasting your time in things that are not really valuable or are not feasible, then it's hard for you to make any progress.
Yeah. What gave you the confidence to, I don't know if accept's the right word, but accept being a profit center? Because I think there's a risk attached with being a profit center in some ways, in terms of your own career and develop, and so did you have some insight into where the opportunity was before saying, yeah, we can seriously add some value here? Or was it just you knew based on previous experience that there must be some gold in there somewhere?
I guess it was a big gamble in some sense, and it was a kind of leap of faith. And as I said, my boss, who it's a very much experienced banker, I guess he understood that there were big pockets of value that we could where we could uncover new things, and this is a good story with a good ending at the end of the day, but it could have gone the other way, and I guess a lot of these stories you don't really kind of like credit enough the luck that you've had in what you've done, in picking the right project, in picking the right partners, and so there's after 6 years you can say, well, 250 times the cost, it's amazing, and it's but yeah, I guess there's a big part of a lot of effort that you end up putting, but lots of people put effort in things that they don't have these yield.
Yes. Yeah. Well, I mean, you put it down to some luck there, and of course, there's something that plays a part there. But picking, as you say, picking the right use case, having the right team, focusing on the right things, building the right stuff, having the right partners. That a lot of that isn't luck. There's a craft to that, isn't there? I often talk about this space being very maths and science based, but none of that is maths and science. That's all art and leadership and management and smarts to put the right things together and focus on the right outcomes that the organization wants and desires and frankly needs.
And if you have, I guess if you, and that's something that I think that I kind of like now believe in it. It's that if you find a good champion within an organization, and that you can, that's crucial, because after our first big hit, then we started to have a very productive collaboration with the credit card company. And since then, it's, I guess, one of the businesses that we have a lot of work, and it has become very sophisticated, the work that we are now doing with them. And we kind of like went up in the scale of things that have an impact and that are interesting and that really translate into a much better service for our customers. And so it's kind of like a virtuous cycle that has emerged.
Yes, success breeds success. Getting results from data analytics and advanced data science is about using data for automation and data for decision making. Well, so says Jeremy, the VP of Data online retailer Mano Mano. In this clip, we explore and hear some of the great examples that Jeremy has had of delivering business value and the importance of a decision-making framework that removes selection bias for better results.
If we look, we have data, this kind of use cases at each step of the chain, because we have a chain going from the seller that is sending products that we are mapping, presenting on our front. So with this taxonomy mapping, then selling on marketing channels. So in this case, it's bidding, and then our own site, search, recommender system, and then to the customer, and perhaps sometimes even to the send back part. So this automation I was talking about is everywhere on this chain. So this is automation. And also we have the other big family, which is decision taking. And so these are completely different challenges, because the challenges I mentioned is you have to have very robust APIs. You have to be able to scale, to answer to perhaps many requests at the same time, to adapt to data drifts, model drifting. So data is not exactly don't have exactly the same statistics over time, and you have to be able to monitor that. All the field that is now training and known as ML ops or AI ops, sometimes even data ops. And so this is very important for automation. For decision taking, these are completely different challenges. So you have to take one decision, perhaps, let's say at each month, but usually it's one shot. Should I open this new category of products in this new country? How much should I invest in my various marketing channels? And you don't necessarily, you can, but you don't make new investment on for, let's say, TV spots each hour or each day. You have at some key moments in the year a decision to take. And in that case, data is helping us a lot too, but it's not about automation. It's about one-shot analysis. And in that case, you don't necessarily, as you said, sometimes it's very simple, but you don't necessarily expect AI or deep statistical modeling, but it happens. Let me give you one example, if we have the time.
We do, yeah, go for it.
So imagine you're interested in, we mentioned a delay in the deliveries. Hopefully it doesn't happen that much, but it happens. So in that case, we had a question, which is, okay, what is the impact on our customers when they suffer from a delay in delivery? What is going to be the impact on their repurchase? And of course, we expect that when this kind of bad events happen, the repurchase is going to be impacted negatively. And so if you take this question as I did with a very naive viewpoint, you're actually going to end up with a very surprising outcome. So imagine you just make two groups. One group of customers, all the customers that never had any delay in the delivery in all their orders, in all their past orders, which is the vast majority. And another group, which is all the customers that for one order at least experienced a delay in the delivery. And you compute the repurchase rate of your two groups. Well, this is what we did. And we were amazed to discover that the repurchase rate of the groups that actually suffered the delay in delivery was higher.
Wow.
And so
and that's of something different rather than just rebuying the thing that I had a problem with.
Yes, and so I scratched my head and this is not possible. We have a problem with the data. We have a problem with the SQL query. We have the problem with the group buy. I don't know what. So it took me days to understand something that is actually very simple, but is that we have a selection bias. The two groups are not homogeneous. It's the same thing when I imagine if you sample all the car accidents, you will have more good drivers in the group of the car accident. Why? Because the more you take your car, the highest the chance of at some day having an accident. Yeah. So if you look at all the people who had a car accident, you will get more frequent driver in this in this group. And it's the same for us. For our most repurchase, so for the customers who repurchase naturally more, they have more chances to, as for one order at least, having a delay in the delivery. So in this small group, we actually have more frequent customer by design. So when you realize that, you say, hey, the fix is very simple. Now, okay, sorry, the methodology was indeed bad. We shouldn't have made these two groups because it's kind of the most naive way to answer the question, but it's not good statistically. So you say, okay, I'm going to compare someone who just bought one time and didn't experience a delay in the delivery, and with someone that bought one time and unfortunately experienced the delay in the delivery. And now you do that, and actually you have your figures in the right order, except for people who bought 4 times or more, it's still in the reverse order, meaning that people that bought 4 times and experienced a delay repurchase more than people that bought 4 times and didn't experience a delay. So in that case, you say, okay, now we have again this problem, and you deep dive and you realize that, okay, people who bought many times, 4 times or more, actually are not buying exactly the same kind of products. And they are buying products that are heavier, more bulkier, and more difficult to transport, and more delay prone to deliver. And so in that case, you realize that you have to fix something very deep in the methodology, because you can't, and I realized how many wrong analyses I shipped before this very interesting experience, is that it cannot be that you make the analysis and if the outcome is counterintuitive, then you deep dive. It's not a solid framework. Yeah. So you have to have some tool that is able to de-bias, to make analysis, everything else being equal. And this is very well known from econometrician. This is very, very well known for old-fashioned statistics, but these tools are very powerful, and you have to use them even for simple analysis when you can do a controlled experiment, when you can do an A/B test, and when you have this bias and that you need to de-bias a posteriori. Well, whether you want it or not, it's actually a complex topic.
In episode 83, I spoke to Sarah Moore, who at the time was the data intelligence director at Sky, specifically the streaming service part of Sky called Now. In this part of the episode, we talked about building an environment and platform that allows the business to self-serve, and the smart use of guided analysis to steer the interpretation of the results and how that's done across the organization. Without reporting, dashboards, and the provision of insights, it's difficult to ensure all parts of a business can get value from data. So this was a fascinating discussion to hear. Is this about giving insight to people so that they can make their decisions, or is this about creating better products and services in sort of collaboration with the sort of the rest of your business?
It's both.
Right.
So we have a more traditional insight team. They act more like a consultancy with those different teams. Okay. So working with the e-commerce team, our customer team, our product team, strategy team, they will work as a consultancy alongside those almost. Right. But we also have a kind of a view on how we create products. Those products are our self-serve environment. So we use Tableau as a front end. And essentially we have this kind of concept of choose your own adventure. I don't know, and this sometimes shows my age. I talk to my team about this and they look at me with blank faces. But if you were a kid growing up and you read those books, then you get to the end of the first chapter and it would say, if you want to follow this plot, go to this chapter.
I love those. Yeah.
Exactly, right. So I grew up reading those, which I love. So the whole point of our self-serve strategy is to try and mimic that, if you like. So the idea of these parent dashboards that focus on key KPIs, key metrics that we need to track, how long the customer's been with us, what they've watched, how many new customers have joined us and kind of were they previously a customer before. Those are the kind of the parent dashboards that we would have. And then we start breaking it down to kind of a level 2, a level 3. And the idea being that you can click through the framework in Tableau across the different dashboards.
Right.
That's kind of what we're trying to achieve and what we've got out with the different colleagues across the business.
Great. On those, that's really interesting. So it's more like an application that you've built where it guides people on a different journey based on who they are and their role, that kind of thing.
Not necessarily. I wouldn't say it's as smart as an application,
right.
But the idea is that it's got pointers. So we know a nice link in with kind of, if you're looking at retention KPIs, is to understand, okay, well, why have they stayed a little bit longer? Are you interested in the system side of it? Did they pay us? Right. Or are you interested in the engagement side of it? How much were they watching? How many days did they go in through that month? How many different things were they watching over the course of that month? Yeah. Those are the kind of things. And so we'll just have hyperlinks linked in so that you can see through across all of these different journeys.
Yeah, I used to call that still too guided analysis. So it instead of it being, because I think that in just more generally, actually, democratization and giving these tools to everyone, some people have created data, provided the tools, and go, leave it, sort yourselves out. And I think this sort of in between someone doing it for you and giving you the keys to the car and not being taught what to do, I think is really nice in that it helps point where, I think you said pointers, like points people where to look next, see a number. Well, there's sort of 5 things I should probably go and look to help me unpick that. It's kind of like a walled garden of data that you can go and swim around. I quite like that. Sorry, mixing my metaphors there.
No, but that's exactly what we're trying to often say to the guys. Single version of the truth is a little easier to control because you can control for it via monitoring, production, all of those lovely process-orientated things. Yeah. Single interpretation of the truth is almost a fallacy, right? It doesn't exist. Yeah. Yeah. Everyone looks at data and interprets it slightly different. So I see our role in that is to try and help guide so that people get to the same interpretation as much as possible. And then the actual insight team, as I said, in their consultancy role, the aim is it's harder to do in remote working, but if we know that the information exists, it's to go and sit down next to them and help them mine it themselves, rather than to actually sit there and do it for them. And we've got different levels of users across the business because not everyone is as data literate as everyone else, and that's fine. I don't expect potentially the brand team to be as interested in all of the churn and the retention information that we've got. They'll be looking at the awareness figures that we provide for other research. Yeah. So we'll have like business users who just want to point and click. We've got power users. So for the forecasting teams, we've given them access to Tableau on the desktop. They can create reports themselves, but they will act as champions then to the rest of their team to kind of help them set up reports, but also help them interpret. And they will also act as kind of champions to us for data protection, all of those lovely things that we know are important. Yeah. And then you've got the technical users like my team and actual technology themselves. So we've got different levels across. It's organic. It's not like process orientated as I've just made it sound. But there's different levels of kind of interaction we would have to try and help smooth this out across the different users.
Yeah, I think that's smart. It's certainly not. It can't be one size fits all. It just doesn't work like that, and you can't. You don't own all of it, so you can't. And you shouldn't, and rightly you shouldn't. So it's sort of a relationship, isn't it? There's a partnership, a relationship between you and the teams that need this stuff, and give people the tools, but based on the level that they're at and their desire and their appetite to sort of interact and engage. I think that's very smart. In the final clip in this series, I head back to the early days of the COVID pandemic when I spoke to Jamie Head, the Chief Technology Officer at Ocean Spray. I love talking to Jamie about examples of where they are using data to help with the full value chain of the business in the agriculture part of the organization for growing, picking and distributing their cranberries, in the trade promotions part of the business, and in the part that focuses on forecasting demand. We also finish on the approach they use to innovation and product development to help us wrap up our series on delivering business value.
Yeah, so you got exactly it is. So your Tesco's, Sainsbury's, whoever it is, and but also our food service business and global partners. So who are our third parties out there that we need to maintain and use as well. So there's that side of the house, which gets a bit more of fluid, where sometimes you're changing in and out of third parties that need to be maintained versus just your regular retailer partners.
Yeah, got it. It'd be great to so that's the data foundations, if you like, getting the data right and clean and effective and well governed. Obviously, on top of that, we tend to see people then, building models or dashboards but the end game to make some business change to improve something. Have you got some examples of we call them use cases, but business things you've done by using data, by using analytics to help improve the business?
Yeah, well, I mentioned the trade spend one earlier. I think using machine learning to help be predictive on what the promotion should be at any particular time is extremely valuable to us. So that's one. But I'll shift actually to another case of we're an agricultural business, so we have farms, and ag tech is quite a hot space at the moment, as you know. We have crop that's produced, and then it comes to receiving stations where you get the trucks come in and then they dump the cranberries out. Yeah, and that has been historically quite a manual process. So we know there's a strong business case there for what would IoT look like? What would vision recognition look like on the crop to check the quality, size, color, waste in the actual load, etc., and do that at scale versus just a small sampling that has been done before. So there's a really good use case where we can quickly spin up a POC, use cloud-based technology to help us, and run sort of color recognition algorithms to really hone in on what is it that makes up a cranberry, and how can we be more accurate in that analysis. And that helps us tremendously up and downstream. It helps the farmers know what quality of crop they're getting and therefore what we pay them. But it also makes sure we know what are our different types of cranberry that's going into production, and is it going to be for the food business? Is it going to be for the beverage business? And what percentage of that crop is working out that way? So it helps us internally as a business work out things like volume and price for the year of what we need to adjust.
And so that implies that depending on how the crop turns out, you might turn that into a different finished good end product, and this sort of data and this better access to where things are now through, as you say, through sort of image recognition, that sort of thing. You might be able to make that decision or understand what that might be sort of earlier in the cycle.
Yeah, we think so. And then also, it's not really in our core business, but it's for our professional business. So where we supply ingredients to other manufacturers, where you could say it's more of a commodity market. So understanding the quality of our crop for that category is important for us as well. As I said earlier, we have a very traditional business that's been going in a straight line for many, many years. And our demand planning cycle has been actually really accurate in our forecasting, more so than some of my previous employees in the US, which was fantastic. But now, as I said, we're introducing more complexity into our supply chain. This is where it's now starting to say, okay, we're entering spaces that we're not sure on, and we have no sort of gut feel on it. And how does analytics in these systems hold up to give us the insights we need to run that through? So I would say we're starting the journey on that whole integrated business planning from a systems point of view to make it more efficient and accurate. We brought in an awesome leader, Rizal Hamdallah, who set up the innovation group for product, and he's going at quite the pace to change the culture at Ocean Spray. And he's using a model with his team, which is pretty much it's similar to sort of the double diamond model, the tech model of working on how you ideate and create a new product offering. And the mandate to double innovation half the time is there, and he's pumping out new products, getting into local areas, local small businesses, getting it on shelf, etc., do the test and learn. But you're right. So it does challenge our internal ways of working a lot, and there's a lot of friction initially when you do it, whether it's the sales team, insights team, etc. Say, well, what are you doing? Why are you doing it? Tell me more. And there's always that rub of this is the way I've always done it because it's been related big product innovation that's going mass market straight away.
Yeah.
And trying to apply those processes to something that's very different, which is a test and learn where 80% of them are going to fail.
Yeah.
So it has been a cultural journey over the year, and it just comes back to the point of you have to have a really highly collaborative organization. You have to be able to accept failure and learn from your mistakes and have that thing that it's okay to fail and move forward. You have to over communicate. What are you doing? Why are you doing it? Etc. to the organization to make sure they're on the journey at the same time. But I think we've done a year of that model, and we're now going into year 2, where we've iterated the innovation model for products, and I think we're going to be even stronger coming into year 2 as a result of it. And then you alluded to it, but you have to think of innovation beyond the product as well. So how do we tap into other parts of our organization to keep simplifying our business and innovate in areas that might not be as sexy, but they're very important for productivity and moving the cooperative forward.
Yeah. Delivering business value is where the work in data needs to start and end. The capabilities required to do so are the enabling factors, but without absolute focus on what you're trying to achieve, proving value, making business improvements, and improving outcomes, you really have nothing. These conversations, and many like it, are such great examples of where data can truly add firepower to an organization. I hope you enjoyed this edition of the Hub and Spoken special series. I want to thank all our guests in the episodes curated on this edition and all other editions for their contribution to making this podcast so valuable and sharing their stories. I also want to thank our wonderful listeners across 126 countries and counting for listening, feeding back and sharing these episodes with other people to enjoy. We hope you find this series interesting, inspiring and informative, so please do check out the rest of the series.